Hello, Motorrad World fans, and welcome to this episode of Talking MotoGP. And you'll notice that I am alone tonight because, sadly, our Paul Scott is still not feeling very well, feeling a bit under the weather back in South Africa. So I'm going to go solo. I wanted to try and bring another guest in tonight, but also work's keeping me nice and busy over here in the UK. Hope you're all well. Jacques Claessens, Yvonne Pretorius, Pine 65. Big apologies for cancelling last minute last night. Just didn't get my day's timing right. I thought I had more than enough time to get everything done, and as it turns out, running late for the train, and it was a bit of a nightmare day, but all is good in the world. All is good in the world. Brian Ritchie, how are you doing? Wayne Taylor, thank you so much for joining us. Looking forward to some of Wayne's insightful comments as always. Brent Stratt, Mariska Hutchinson, always chimes in with some really good comments. Yaku Dust, Nicole Breert, our Cape Town stalwart who's always in these chats. Paolo Chiacchetti, hi there, Paolo. Thank you for joining us. Paolo also chimes in with some really good comments every now and then, so great to have him. Gordon De Beer, Robert Swart, Dick Crosby, Mart van Jaarsveld, Nico, hello Nico, Russell Edwards, so everyone is tuning in. Wimpy Vandenberg, Raceline Lubes, back in South Africa, welcome. Hope you're going to enjoy the show. Zenzi Mofakati, Daryl Holmes, Ollie Moto, waiting for my mate Ollie Moto. Get well soon, Paul. Yeah, let's hope Paul is back up and running for the next episode of Talking MotoGP. Francois Retief, Robert Mackey, my Scotsman friend, him and his kilt. I'm sure he's wearing his kilt. I think he lives in his kilt. Alan Wallace, Rob, missed you guys last night. Yeah, Alan, I missed you. I was very excited, always am very excited to chat to everyone. So apologies again for last night, but made a chat tonight. So we've got a lot to talk about. Craig Hicks. Craig, how you doing? Saw Craig out at the Silverstone MotoGP with his Brad Binder flag, supporting our boy there. So welcome, Marnie Duplessis, Scott Mordaunt. So let's jump straight into it then. Please, because Paul's not here, I'm really going to interact as much as I possibly can with you. Going to look forward to your comments and bring as much interaction as we possibly can in. Marnie Duplessis, hi from Berlin. Marnie, how are you in Berlin? Scott Mordaunt, Ivan Plisic, Olimoto, I was out last night, so it's fine with me for tonight. You see, it just works out. It just works out. Joe Alves, hello, Ankara. Joe Alves, how are you doing, Joe? Just been a long time since you go through these periods in life where you see someone all the time at racing and that, and then it's just crazy. I just like this. Life's just time's just doing this. I don't know what's happening. It's almost September 2024. It's like, you know what I mean. But anyway, let's get into it. I've made some good notes from this weekend's racing because there were a couple of things that stood out for me. Not so much on track. We all know, I don't want to say boring because I don't think riding at that speed is ever boring, but in terms of racing and overtaking and stuff, certainly wasn't the most entertaining MotoGP race that we've ever seen. But my take on Bastianini, Bagnaia and Martin, especially when they do what they did on the weekend at the RedBull Ring, yeah, it's boring, but I can appreciate how good those guys are to ride at that speed, at that level, with no mistakes, that consistency for that long. I can't help but just sit in absolute awe of these riders. They are just from another planet. That's why we call them aliens. Bagnaia, how precise and spot on the guys. Yeah, Bagnaia and Martin make the odd mistake, with the crashes and under pressure, but they're always inside that top 5. They're always inside that top 3. They're always that's why they are the championship contenders. Bastianini, kind of clawed and held on there as much as he could. Didn't really get the sprint race he wanted, but he's clawing, and that's the thing with Bastianini, is why you can't. I don't know. I can't see him as a firm title contender because you can always picture that race where he might be a 6th or a 7th or just battling a little bit, whereas Martin and Pecco are just going to be like this. They're going to have the odd little crash in that, but then they back up the next weekend and winning races and competing as well. Robert Mackey in that heat as well. Exactly. It was crazy conditions out here. From people that were there, it was up and down. It was boiling hot, then it was cloudy, and then it poured with rain, and then it was thunderstorms, and then so a real mixed bag there. Only while Mark was close, Stephen Berry. Mark is still an open conversation for me. I don't want to use the GP23 as the excuse of why Mark hasn't won yet, and. I think it certainly plays into that kind of fray of excuses. Next year, there's no more excuses for Marc Marquez. I am a Marc Marquez fan. I don't like the tagging stuff in MotoGP. I've spoken about that at arm's length. But in terms of Marc, I'm a fan. I thought he would have won more races, as I'm sure we all did. He would have won more races than he currently has on the Ducati. But there seems to be a valid argument, and Stephen, Ollie, Mariska, everyone, Gordon, to be a chime in your comments here, please. There seems to be a little bit of validation in the difference between 23 and 24 GP Ducati bikes. That there's a little bit lost there in terms of Marc challenging more often Martin and Pecco and Bastianini for wins. I don't know. I know Pecco's come out already and played the mind games. I don't know if everyone saw that comment about. I think it's strange. There's not much development between 23 and 24 GP bikes. I think that's just mind games. I think there is a difference. We can see it with Bezzecchi. Bezzecchi doesn't look like the same kind of rider that he was last year from the GP22 to the GP23. I think that gap was closed a little bit. The GP24, they made a huge step in terms of what Pecco wants from a bike. We know that bike has really been molded around Pecco, and Martin just makes it work. It just works for Martin as well. But I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm happy to, not happy, but I'll accept the argument of the difference between the GP23 and the GP24 is the 0.2, 0.3 a second, whatever it is that Marc Marquez is missing out on. Next year, there's no more excuses for Marc. Full factory bike, same bike as Pecco, championship winning bike, latest spec, latest everything, off you go. So I'm going to be a lot more critical of Marc next year if he's not producing the goods more often than not. I think the days of Marc dominating are long gone. Long gone. MotoGP is at a new level. It'll never be that. But there will still be the race wins for Marc that haven't come this year so far. Stephen Berry, Marc was close a few times. 24, 23, Marc says, is a 4 to 5 seconds a race difference. Gaps have been far bigger than that. Bez battling with the 23, but Digi is almost on Marc's level lately. It is. I understand what Stephen's saying there. It's you're in Marc's corner a little bit, but at the same time, you're like, well, that doesn't quite match up because Digi's. Anyway, there's an argument to be had there. Marc, I think, can kind of lean on that argument this year. Next year, he cannot lean on any more arguments for me. Apparently, the new ride-out device on the 24 is making a big difference on the to the 23. That's from Wayne Taylor. We all saw the problem Marc had in the main race with the start device, didn't activate it, and it just shows you what a huge difference that makes. And then the collision with Franco. And then I've had a couple of people already comment here. Let's talk about Darren. Let's start off with Darren Binder. Why don't we? Because it was another fantastic ride from our dads. Brilliant to see the WP suspension. A couple of guys have commented here. WP suspension seems to have found a step. As I said in the summer break, Pedro Acosta was out testing with the WP suspension crew, and they've certainly found something. Celestino Vietti, first one in a long time. Dixon on the podium again. Darren, 2 races in a row, challenging inside that top 10, not too far from the top 5. It's brilliant to see. Got my Dive Bomb Darren t-shirt on. As I said, I loved watching him at Silverstone making those moves. And I think the confidence is certainly coming back. One thing I am concerned about, news coming out of there, is Darren and his potential move to RW Racing. Yeah, it's in the World Championship. RW Racing have been there a while now, but I just feel like it might be that team that won't be able to give Darren consistently good. We've seen Bo Ben Schneider on occasion pull out a result with that team. We know Stephen Orendahl was in that team. It's at Premier League table, isn't it? And they're one of the bottom feeding teams. They're there, credit to them. They're there year in and year out. I just think hopefully these couple of races in confidence, Wayne Taylor, it's a backward step, I agree. A couple of these great race results, according to what I heard from Silverstone and speaking to a couple of people, that Darren's current team are interested in keeping him if the results improve. Well, so far that's 2 in a row. Fingers crossed, keep that momentum going. Darren can string a couple of good results together and more opportunities will open up. The RW Racing, I think, is maybe nice to have in the bag, but I don't know. I hope there's better options out there. Darren is only 8 points and 1 place behind Senna Aegis now. Beating your teammate is the first priority. Olimoto, you're absolutely right, and that's the thing. The last 2 races, he's really shown up his teammate, and rightfully so. He's the more experienced rider, but Senna's already got the contract in the bag. So, yeah, as I said, let's hope. Worst case, I'd like Darren to stay with the team that he's at. Familiar team, they know him. Hopefully the confidence between them and the respect between them and the work rate between them would have built and grown. But yeah, I worry about the RW Racing. Nico, isn't Husqvarna in Moto2 pulling out? That is a concern. That team is losing the big Husqvarna sponsorship. The question then is, are they going to stay with WP suspension? Are they going to make the move over to Öhlins now that they're not tied into Pure Mobility Group, if there is any tie left? Are they going to stay Kalex? Are they going to go Bosco Scuro? Let's see. Let's stop effing around and crowdfund a Moto2 team. Ricky Moraes, crew chief, and AJ Fenter manager. Love the idea, Stephen Berry. Love the idea. I can do the social media and all the video content and stuff, and we'll take over the MotoGP world. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. But anyway, that's Darren Binder. Proud of my boy. Looks fantastic. Their confidence is coming. Dive bombs coming back. The flocks are just flowing in the back of the helmet, that bell helmet there, and just keep up the great work, Darren. Very, very proud of you after everything that you've gone through and all the negativity and everything and the battles. It's great to see you starting to perform. So just keep it up. Daryl Holmes, Marc Marquez can't win on the 23, but maybe at a tight track. I don't know. I just see Pecco and Martin on another level at the moment in terms of bike rider combination. Mark at times still looks like he's overriding the Ducati and not riding it the best way it needs to be ridden to get out of it. At times at Silverstone, I said I was watching him on the side of the track and it still looked like he was riding it like the Honda, trying to override the bike, trying to compensate on the brakes and using the front end a bit too much. I think Mark, I mean, what is the hours that he hasn't won? Someone will give me the hours. It's a long time since Mark has won. So he's going into every single race weekend with that mentality as well. Is I need to win, I need to win, I need to win. And that's, that adrenaline's pumping and that's pushing him to override the bike. It's a frustrating process for Mark because we all know the talent. He's on the bike now that's competitive enough to win. I think he just needs to calm it down and just concentrate on still learning the bike. I know he's kind of said my learning period's over and I know the bike. I think there's still something missing in Mark's riding style with the Ducati. He needs to change mentally a little bit. As well, the sprint race at Spielberg was a classic example. Comfortable podium finish, and you push over the limit by the slightest margin, and down you go. You were never going to catch Pecco. You had, the Joker card of Martin getting the penalty. You had a safe second in many ways, and Mark being Mark, always wanting more. The animal that he is, the hunter that he is, doesn't stop pushing, and probably just saw that he was maintaining or thought he was closing the gap and over pushed. And so there's changes that Mark, I think, needs to do to get the best out of the Ducati mentally and riding style wise. And that's why I said, in some ways we should be more critical, because 8-time world champion, we all thought he was going to climb on the bike and dominate, and he should have, and he's not. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt now, but next year, that's it, Mark. You got to start pulling those socks up and getting those race wins. Bezzecchi is having issues with a new tire. That's why he did better this weekend. The tire was different this weekend and it helped him. You're absolutely right, Ollie Moten. A couple of people have commented about the tire. We forget what a difference a tire makes, and it's actually been a little bit of a detriment to KTM as well. KTM at one point had a Michelin combination that they really liked, and even the new tire combination doesn't seem to fit them as well. I was watching on MotoGP's YouTube channel. I don't know if you guys watched it. One of the top technicians from the LCR team was talking about chatter and what causes chatter and stuff. And I loved his explanation of, you take an eraser, a rubber, and you try and erase a pencil off a paper, and the rubber resists because it grips and it resists, and that causes the chatter. How many times have we all done it with a rubber, and you're like, and you'll end up crinkling your paper and whatever. And he says that's what's happening, and he did point out that Michelin have brought the grippiest tire they've ever brought out in their life. They've made a tire, and this is where I credit Michelin, because I know they get a lot of flack from people, but I credit them because they've managed to create a tire that's breaking lap records everywhere they go. The riders are pushing harder and faster and everything, and Michelin are doing their best to create this tire that works, and they seem to have created a tire that's able to go faster, but it comes with every action, there's a reaction, and that reaction is the chatter. And I think that harder, grippier carcass of the Michelin, in a combination with that hard, stiff, rigid KTM, beam / carbon chassis / WP suspension, I think it's just working against each other. It's not as adaptive, not as kind of flowing as on the Ducati. So I think, Olimoto, you've touched upon a really good point there in terms of tires. It's not just all about aero and this and that. The tires make a big difference, and Ducati again have got the best setup, not only on the tires but the overall package. Watching Brad on the weekend, again, he always mentions this word balance when he talks about his KTM machine. And it was evident again that the balance is just not there on that bike. You watch a Ducati under braking, it breaks, even under hard braking. It'll get up, it'll settle itself, and the rider can kind of be in control of what the bike's doing. The KTM still seems to go forward, then back. There's not a defined balance on that motorbike. When I watch it, even when I watched it Silverstone on the side of the track, it's a very good word. It's the perfect word to use for that KTM at the moment, is balance. It's just not there. So let's hope that's something they can find. And I think that's something, I mean, it just sounds easy to find it, eh? It just sounds so easy, but they're working hard at it. And it was a good performance again from Brad. Now that we're talking about Brad, let me just catch up with some of the comments here. Pecco can't steal Martin's info for next year. Rian Petit, Pecco can't steal Martin's info next year. Martin is next level. That's an interesting fact as well, is that pool of info sharing that Ducati have. We've spoken about it many times. It's just it's that playbook. You think of American football, like that playbook is their golden book. That's what makes or breaks teams, championships, coaches, everything. And imagine just having access to that playbook. It's a cheat code in many ways for Ducati. Mark pulling to the left a big gap for Brad to fill engine ahead at the start. Mariska, yes, Daz, confidence is great. Van Rasmus talking about Darren. Yes, it is. Why have they not re-signed Darren's teammate? And why have they re-signed Darren's teammate and not Daryl Holmes? Well, as I said to you, from Silverstone, it was very much Darren. We're interested, but you've got to pull your socks up and get better results. We knew that. Darren knew that. Looks like it's starting to come together now. As I said, I think they found something with the WP suspension and the Pirelli tires. Vietti's winning races, looking really good. And Vietti's a rider that, correct me if I'm wrong, is out of a ride at the moment for next year because he's being replaced by Colin Vaya in that IO team. So, that's how ruthless the world is. Listen, Vietti's VR46 Academy, the guy's going to find himself in a decent seat. But that's what I worry about with Moto 2. Once you get into a team like RW Racing, which I fear Darren might be Darren's only option, which I'm, a couple more results, I have no doubt it won't be his only option. But you look at Ben Schneider, they just get lost, in those kind of teams. So let's see. Stephen Berry, I'll wash the box. You can wash the box. Mark will be good at Aragon on the Ducati. Yeah. I just watching Martin and Pecco, and their rivalry, them wanting to beat each other. I don't even think they worry too much about Mark and that anymore. I think that's just the two of them nipping at each other just pushes them to that next level. Martin, I'll do a low 28 at RedBull Ring. Pecco, I'll do a high 27. Martin, okay, well, I'll go beat you. It's just this headbutt match that just takes him to this next level. Andre Calvert, Mark is still a bull in a china shop. He needs some Frankie poison. I like that analogy. Talking about Mark, anyone know why Tardozzi and the Aprilia Mac were arguing? So, Andre, Calvert, very good point. And Stephen Berry actually sent me the link on Messenger before the show and said, have a look at this. I saw clippings of it and said, and I, sometimes I overlook those kind of things because I never know what's real and if they just took a picture at the wrong time. But anyway, he sent me a video of this Aprilia mechanic technician with his iPad literally walking around. I think it was Bezzecchi's VR46 Ducati machine, and literally walking and taking like up close video. So obviously it's plagiarism in many ways, and Tardozzi's made note of this, and he's walked up to him and said, listen, it's a bit blatant. You can't just walk around and video our bikes, that blatantly. So that seems to be what the bust up was all about. So yeah, it does seem a bit blatant by Aprilia for me. Very, very strange. Very strange. Van Erasmus, next year KTM must get their act together. No chance Brad or anyone else does better if not. Brad could not do better this weekend. The bike was losing, not Brad. Vanna, absolutely right. I think it's there for all of us to see. We know, the team know that the bike is the handicap at the moment, and not Brad. It was a brilliant ride from Brad. Listen, it was a fantastic ride to break that stronghold of the 5 Ducatis in the top 5 from the past 2 race meetings is a hell of a job, especially when your teammate Miller was looking good but crashed out. Acosta, as Stephen Colgoxi says, was nowhere. We'll touch upon him just now. Augusto Fernandez just seems to be riding around at the moment. I'm not sure what's going on there, but it's certainly not. I don't think the bike is a 5th place bike even. I think Brad just rode it to 5th place at RedBull Ring. He literally pulled the bull by the horns, excuse the pun, and took it to 5th place. So, and I just loved these debriefs again. There's no negativity. There's no backlash to the team. It must be so frustrating for the guy. You could see a little bit of relief on the slowdown lap with Brad. Like you could see there was a fist pump and a little bit of a rub of the tank, and it shouldn't be for 5th place, but that's where they are now. And I think it was overlooking the 5th place on paper, that ride and the way he had to ride 110% every single lap and not crash, I think is what Brad's patting himself and the bike for, because that could not have been easy. That could not have been easy. When you had Bezzecchi, you had to get past Bezzecchi. I think Miller was a little bit of a handbrake at what point, ahead of both Aprilias, which is a better package at the moment, even though it's not Aprilia's, on paper, not one of their best tracks. But very impressed with Brad once again. And I agree, it's frustrating for all of us, the KTM exercise. They need to pull up their socks. They need to get it sorted. It's not even a case about pulling up their socks. It's just about that word that I said earlier, balance. Trying to get the package to work with the tires a bit better. There just seems to be this positive, negative kind of, pushback in terms of something, whether it's the tires, with the suspension, whether it's the electronic. There's some kind of pushback that's not giving them the balance and that feel that they want, that they had certainly at the beginning of the year at Qatar. I'm starting to think the Qatar was more that KTM were up and running just a lot faster than maybe some others, and the others have just gone up, and KTM just haven't gone up as rapidly. So anyway, there were some positive signs. Great result for Brad. Pretty about the sprint race, the start that he got there, got boxed in a little bit, or it was always going to be harder with the less laps to make those passes. But from 12th to 5th, Brad, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Seeing Pecco doing 129s the whole race, and the K team's doing mid 130s and up, 18 seconds closest non-Ducati. Nico, it is. It's a frustrating situation. But let's talk about the Ducati Cup quickly. And I know I'm slow at catching up on comments here, but I'm literally going to go through them. But let's talk about this Ducati Cup. And I know there's big frustration from people with this Ducati Cup, and Ducati, they're spoiling the sport. They're making it boring. I understand the argument, and I had a conversation with someone on the MotoGP supporters page, on South African supporters page. This guy was saying that it's obviously boring. I'm not interested in it anymore. It's a Ducati Cup. It's not fair. Dorna need to sort the rules out. I don't agree with that. I do not agree with that. It's the same as the Bautista situation in Superbike. Why should you get penalized because you are the best? Why? And I use the analogy of Usain Bolt sprinting. Okay, because was born with the genetics of tall, African, strong. The guy can eat chicken nuggets before he runs, and he'll still set a world record. So now, okay, that's not fair. He must tie one leg behind his back. And this guy still replied and said, yeah, in the world of fairness, maybe they should have. And that kind of struck a nerve with me. I was like, this is the world we live in today. It's all about inclusion. And I see it, and please, comments, I'll catch up with them. Give me your thoughts on this. This is how I see it. We live in a world of inclusion. So back in my day, if you played football or school sports or whatever, first, second, and third got a medal. That was it. If you were fourth by 0.1 of a second or a ball air, you didn't get a medal or a trophy. You didn't get any gratification whatsoever. You had to be in that top three, which meant you worked harder to be in that top three. You did whatever you had to do. That's just what you did. If I was finishing fourth in a race, I'd have to work harder to finish top three. Now, you get a medal for taking part because, shame, everyone needs a medal. Pass the parcel. At birthday parties, you used to get past the parcel and it stopped on you, unwrapped it, you didn't get anything until the final unwrapping, and then the winner or the kid got the present right at the end. Yay. Now, every layer's got to have a sweet or a gift in. It's like, and this is the world we live in. So this is it. Oh, it's not fair that Ducati are so fast. You've got to include everyone else. Shame. Slow them down. I do not agree with it. It's up to Yamaha, KTM, Honda, Aprilia to catch up. Okay. It's not up to Ducati to get slower. It's not up to Dorna to find ways to slow Ducati down. It's not fair. There are 8 Ducatis on this grid, 4 factory bikes, just like there's 4 Hondas, just like there's 4 factory KTMs. The rest of the Ducatis, the other 4, are leased and paid for by teams. VR46, Valentino Rossi, Yamaha Ambassador pays money to ride Ducatis. It's not Ducati's fault that they have the best bike and they want to buy the bikes. They can buy any bike. Pramac were the 2 factory bikes. Grassini, buy those bikes. It's as simple as that. It's not Ducati's fault. So I understand the Ducati Cup, and I can appreciate watching Pecco Bagnaia, who's at one with his motorcycle, doing what he did at Spielberg. Yes, it's boring in terms of racing action, but I look at that and I appreciate it. For man and machine to work solely like that and go that fast, I enjoy it. There's nothing boring about that to me. It is, I can't believe that man and machine can go that fast on 2 wheels. It blows my mind. No one complained when Rossi was dominating on a Honda. No one. That's because Rossi had the charisma, and we all loved Rossi. Rossi fan till the day I die. No one complained. A little bit of mumblings when Duan was winning because he wasn't the most charismatic guy. So it was like, okay, this is getting a bit boring now. No one complained when Rossi won on the Yamaha. Yes, the Yamaha wasn't as good as the other bikes, but Rossi won on the Yamaha. But no one complained for years. No one complained. Now people are complaining because maybe Pecco doesn't have the same charisma. Maybe he's not as flashy. Maybe he's not making it look as fun as Rossi did. I don't know. But, exact same analogies. Moto 3, KTM are dominating. Okay, the racing is a bit more exciting because it's just KTMs, but it's KTM dominating. No one's saying it's the KTM Cup. And then what's the answer? Do we put everyone in MotoGP on Ducatis? Make it a fair playing field? And I know what the answer to that's going to be. Yeah, that's what Dorna should do with the rules, is make it a 2027. Ducati is going to be the bike to beat again. They just have something in their DNA that works. Ducati went through this. Ducati dominated for a year with Stoner, then they were nowhere for a long time, including the mighty Rossi could not make it work. They had to, with no concessions or no shame, poor Ducati, they had to work their way to the success. Gigi Dall'Igna was the best signing Ducati ever made. Aprilia had him. Ducati took him. Honda could have taken him. Yamaha could have taken him, but they were all dominating in that time. Ducati made the call, took him, built for the future, and now they're reaping the rewards. Why should they be punished for that? Why should Alvaro Bautista be the only rider punished in World Superbikes because of his genetics, because he is a lighter rider? Okay, no one complains that the Springboks dominate rugby. Should we start making them, no, it's not fair that they have Eben Etzebeth, the giant. Shame, you got to put a smaller guy in there to tackle the big. You know what I mean? People, it's called competitive sport. Keep the competition. Keep the competition. I will teach my child to the end that I don't want a medal for coming last or just participating. I want my child to understand hard work gets you places. Hard work gets you those medals and trophies. That's my overall point of view on Ducati. Let's catch up with some of the comments here. Shame, and according to the commentary for just missing Q2. That's Brad looking for Biz Marty. Let me just go. Mike Teal, good evening, Rob. Greetings from myself and Liam, grandson Liam. Unfortunately, a bit late. Mike, thank you, and Liam, thank you for always joining us. Brad is closing in on Vinales in 5th, and that's the best he can really do given those top 4 spots. Olimoto, Brad, yeah, another good thing is, surpassed Acosta in the championship and put a little bit more consistency together. Brad, he hasn't had all those big spills and stuff, so let's see. Rumors that RW Racing are going to sign Sven, we've already touched upon it. Vietti is going to speed up, apparently. Okay, thank you for that. Olimoto, Sean is watching from Ireland. Paul's bike seems more stable and the new exhaust, the new aero. Tulani, Paul's objective at this race weekend was to get data and stuff, and wasn't a huge fan of those Batman wing things on the side, but I understand it's prototype. It's all about, pushing the boundaries and limits of what can be done. It doesn't look good, but it doesn't need to look good. It just needs to go fast. So I understand that argument. Not for me. I'm looking forward to the 27 rules where it all kind of just takes a step back and it's more up to the rider than anything else. Can we talk about Marquez's first corner shenanigans? Gordon De Beer, yeah, it's a tough one, this first corner thing, because okay, he got his launch device all cocked up and didn't activate it or unactivated or whatever. Then he did a typical racer thing and just try to cut across and protect himself. And Morbidelli was there. The problem is, and Dave Peterson, I've said this a couple of times, the last time I had Dave Peterson on the show, he said, the problem now is you're always going to have something going into turn 1, because it's not a case of like the old days where, this guy launched better than this guy and this guy couldn't launch. They are all launching pretty much at the same speed with these launch devices. So 22 or whatever it is of the fastest riders in the world are entering turn 1 at the same time, at the same speed. Now, a spanner's thrown in the works when a Marquez doesn't activate his launch control, and he now goes from that front row and he filters into that mid pack. Marc Marquez is a fighter. He's not going to just let everyone pass him. He's going to try and make up for it. He tried. It was a racing incident in my mind, complete and utter racing incident. I don't see it anything more malicious or intentional or anything like that. Sad the Yamaha Oaks not even in the picture anymore. Sean P. O'Neill. I have to remind myself, Yamaha and Quartararo and Honda are there, especially this weekend. It was dismal, and Quartararo's attitude seems to be taking a big knock, because he's coming out now and just saying, well, I can understand the frustration, but you've got to play the game. Brad's played this game for a long time now and he's still doing it. And Quartararo's starting to come out and say, Stephen Berry did that race, starting to come out now and saying we're going backwards. And he's got to remember why he signed for 12 million. Yes, it's a lot of money and it was for the money, but it's also to improve the project, and you have to be patient. I've said it before. I don't know. Quartararo isn't patient. He's not a developer either. So it's a tough one for Yamaha, because Crutchlow also hasn't been of much use. They've had Remy Gardner come in and do things, and it's just been a bit of a disconnect, the whole exercise. They've now gone with a little bit of stability with Andrea Dovizioso, announcing him that he's going to be testing at Misano. I think that'll bring, Dovi's an experienced campaigner, been at the highest level, almost won championships, developed the Ducati. So he'll definitely bring something to it. He's just been out of MotoGP for over a year now. MotoGP's moved on so much. So, it's the best option for Yamaha. And I'm glad they've made it, because, waiting for Carl to sort himself out, unfortunately, is not the right decision. So at least they've made that move, but yeah, it doesn't make for good reading. It's not great when you haven't improved on your race time from last year and the Dukes are breaking records. Wayne Taylor, very good analogy there. Olimoto, here's a question. Will Ducati change their mind on Aldeguer? Yes, Olimoto, we all of us, we all think the exact same, because I have got a note here that says Furman Aldeguer isn't consistent in Moto2. And so was Fabio Quartararo. So, Olimoto, I think you or Stephen Berry commented on the one post that I saw on Facebook saying, because the news broke today that Ducati are potentially looking at, pulling the plug on Aldiguer's contract to go up to MotoGP. And someone posted there, they kind of rushed to sign him so quickly and then didn't really, think of what could happen, the repercussions of signing him early, basically. And it does seem to have played with his head because he's got a contract in his back pocket. He's very inconsistent, Fermin Aldeguer. When he's on it, fine, fair game. He's fantastic. But when he's not, he's forgotten. I forgot he was even in Moto2 this weekend. And you forget he's going to MotoGP next year. And I bring in the Fabio comment because Fabio Quartararo wasn't the greatest Moto2 rider in the world. Yeah, he had a couple of good performances and stuff, but he never did enough to warrant a MotoGP ride. But he climbed on a MotoGP bike and he produced the goods. So I don't know. I think there are better options ahead of Furman, to be honest. I don't think it's a terrible thing to put him on a GP bike because I do think with his size and that I think he could produce the goods. As I said, a la Fabio Quartararo, it's either going to work out or it's not. In terms of will Ducati kind of renege on the deal? Listen, Ducati are ruthless when it comes to rider contracts and stuff, so I could easily see them doing it. But I don't know. It's a big concern, as you say, Olimoto. It's what looked like a complete, 100% cast in iron or cast in stone deal doesn't seem so cast in stone anymore. Davi, the test rider, Justin DP, thank you for that. Ducatis must be running on fumes, just giving enough fuel for the race, whereas other bikes, I feel, need to conserve their fuel. Nico, I've actually got a picture on my phone, a screenshot I took from Spielberg, and I know how sensitive Dorna are with screenshots and that's why I haven't posted it, of, all the riders on the warm-up lap kind of tucked behind racing, and I'm like, this is MotoGP 2024, is racing to see who could be the slowest on the warm-up lap. It's so funny seeing these guys just tucked down behind the bubble, everything they've got at like snail's pace because they've literally got to just save fuel. They've got to save as much fuel as they possibly can because obviously they get to the start line, they're not allowed putting fuel in on the grid or anything. So what you put in your tank when you leave the pits is what you have for the race. So yeah, they do really push it to the absolute limit. But it's just funny to see the race to see who can be the slowest on the warm-up lap. Stephen Berry, I was upset about Brad's qualifying ruining his pace, but I don't think anything more than fifth was on, no more than where he started. Yeah, the qualifying did kick Brad in the nuts. There's no two ways about it. A better qualifying, especially with that opening sector at the RedBull Ring, with that new chicane now, it really doesn't give you any room to kind of make up any positions. That turn one is so tight. Then you go into the chicane, then you go into turn three. It's so tight. So it's just this cluster of fast riders trying to find space. So even with a better qualifying, do I think Brad would have been on for a better result than fifth? I think he would have battled. I think Mark, if you look at Mark down in 14th after the mistake and he fought his way through to fourth, I think he would have had pace for Bastianini for that final podium position. But yeah, I think the fifth place was the best that Brad could have and his team could have pulled. Agreed, Rob. Not everyone is a winner. To win, you have to work hard and get rewarded. Andre Colbert. Yeah, I agree with that. Ducati deserves praise and nothing else. They have destroyed everyone in development. The other manufacturers are sleeping. Wayne Taylor. Ducati have developed the bike to be the best. Others need to catch up. Bigger companies, i.e. Honda, just splash out. What? Slapgat now getting clapped. I am big fan, but understand they put the work to get to the top. That's the point of competition, to find the best. I don't subscribe the World Superbike of handicapping a bike with rev limits and stuff. I agree with you, West Waylong Wanderers. I completely agree with you. I don't agree with any kind of restrictions or handicaps. You think of Rossi and those days, there was no handicaps there. Rossi wasn't given any kind of handicap, and it made him the god that he is in motorcycling now. If Rossi had to race with kind of restrictions or these rules of, you think about how many points Rossi would have lost when he took Lorenzo out, the last corner had a res, Stone had Laguna, all those kind of things. It's yeah, there's too many filters and factors that have come into racing now. May the best man win. Whatever happened to that analogy? May the best man win. And at the moment, the best man, best motorcycle are winning. And why should we punish that? Why can't we just look at it and go, you know what, well done? And that's something that did grind me a bit in the South African motorcycle industry. There was no one that ever just patted you on the back and said, you know what, Rob, and turn within the industry, there was always just pointing fingers and trying to bring you down rather than just pat you on the back and say, you know what, great job, good for you. It seems to be lacking in the world now. It's not fair that you can do this and I can't. Yeah, what about me? What about you? Work harder. It's frustrating at times. It's very frustrating at times. Let's just catch up with some Derby Test Rider. Stupid idea. Give all the guys same bike and let's see who is who. Sure, BB will be on top. Just 5 seconds. Chris Stalionel. Sorry, I don't know how to say your surname, Chris. I'm terrible with pronunciation. But Chris, I promise you, when I was writing or thinking of the whole Ducati Cup thing, it did cross my mind. Can you imagine if, okay, bugger it, you know what? All MotoGP bikes are Ducatis. Everyone's on the same machinery. I would love to see that exercise. How awesome would that exercise be? Put your comments in there. Top 5. Who would your top 5 be if everyone was on the same machinery? Would Pecco and Martin be the step ahead that they are of everyone else? Listen, they would still be 1 and 2 in my mind. Yes, the machine is helping them now, but they are supremely talented riders. I think the biggest riders that would benefit the most in the list of where they are now, if they were on Ducati machineries, is whether you like it or not, whether you're a fan or not, or biased or whatever. Definitely Brad Binder, 100% sure. Brad Binder would benefit in terms of position and pace and stuff. Bezzecchi, I don't know. There's something that doesn't quite sit right with me with Bezzecchi. We saw it in Moto 2. He was up and down, and he does it in MotoGP now. I'm very interested to see how Bezzecchi gets on in at Aprilia next year. So I don't know if I'd throw Bezzecchi into that pool. Digi's proved himself. I still again don't have this. I'm not completely sold, although I fully respect what Digi's done. It's a pity he missed out on this weekend, but I fully respect what he's done and everything that he's gone through to be where he is. Aleix, it's off to Aleix. The guy's 35 years old, announced his retirement, got his family and kids in the pits, and he's still the fastest Aprilia more often than not. Take my hat off to that guy, I really do. When he's not doing silly things. Vinales, I'll talk about Vinales just now because I've always said I'm a big fan of them all, but geez, Vinales makes it hard to be a fan. So anyway, I'm going to catch up on some comments and see. Obviously, Marc Marquez, I would say Alex Marquez to me is, I don't like to use the word grid filler, but he's certainly one. He's fast enough to be in MotoGP. He's faster than anyone else to come into that ride, I think. But he's never going to be, one of the aliens, if you like. He's just a grid filler, and I don't want to use that word because there's so much more than that. Commentator did point out that Furman is 10 kilo heavier than Sergio Roberts and I. Stephen, I've seen Furman. He is, when we say bigger, these guys are all toothpicks. He's just more of a toothpick than the others. He's certainly one of the taller riders. So that's why I do kind of think, he could potentially work on a MotoGP bike. I don't know. I think the whole Pedro thing, okay, we'll talk about Acosta now. Wayne Taylor, Little Big Media Co. We spoke about his inconsistency already last year. He's like Iannone. When the stars align, he's unbeatable, but it doesn't happen all the time. I'm not too sure he's talking about, Little Big Media Co's talking about there, whether it's Bastianini, or if it's Maverick, or if it's Aldeguer. Mariska Hutchison, hello Arushan Woodley, are you watching? Hello Arushan, and your fantastic, beautiful family, and that very fast son of yours, who did a great job again. Pity about the DNF, but Rocher has definitely established himself as one of the top boys in that Red Bull rookies. Just doesn't seem to have the luck that you sometimes need, but he's competing against the best in the world at that age group and doing a solid job. And KJ Monyanyane, still at grassroots and still learning the tracks and the Red Bull rookies. So stay at it. Great to have AJ Fenton in your corner there. But yeah, I think South Africa's got some really good talents that are ready to take over if and when Brad and Darren decide to call it a day. Jack and Miguel to Pramac Yamaha, and Augusto Fernandez being a Yamaha test rider. Nico, you're pretty much spot on there. It sounds like that's exactly what's going to happen at Yamaha. Is that the best options for Yamaha? Miguel, we talk about his beautiful riding style. Wayne Taylor and I, both agree that in terms of riding style, you do not get a more beautiful riding style on the grid at the moment than Miguel Oliveira. Could that work in favor of Yamaha? All the Yamaha strengths just seem to have gone. There's no strength quality to Yamaha anymore. So I don't know. Will they bring valuable information? Sure, they will. Can they translate it into something that's going to work for Yamaha? Is the debate, because I don't necessarily think Oliveira is a development rider. Jack certainly took KTM to a step, but it seemed to have this and then just kind of stopped and nothing more. So is it their best options? Paul and I have spoken about it. We would both like to just see fresh blood come in, fresh ideas, a Sergio Garcia or someone like that come in with no perception of what a MotoGP bike is supposed to feel like, or a Yamaha MotoGP bike, and just do things their way and relate information their way, rather than a Miguel or a Jack that are going to, a Jack's obviously going to be, comparing it to a Ducati because that was his best. So they're always going to be comparing it and trying to change it to be a Ducati, to be something it can't be. Whereas, a fresh rider like Garcia, for instance, and those kind of riders, and Iagura, those kind of riders, will come in and just go, well, I don't know what it's supposed to feel like, but to me, this is what feels wrong, and go with that kind of thought process rather than, these guys that are going to come in and, I don't know. Listen, I seriously hope it works for Yamaha. They need it to work because they need something big. But let's see. Augusto Fernandez is a test rider. He's a current rider. He's running just over a second at worst off the fastest pace in MotoGP at the moment. So I think that'll be an asset, having a fast rider who's young and hungry. I think he could work. Is he a development rider? Again, it's the difference between being a fast rider and a development rider. You need that feel. You need that patience to every single lap. I can't remember which test rider said it. I think it was Savadori or someone said, it's not that you're Paul Espargaro, I think it was. Being a test rider is not all it's made out to be. You've got to go out when you're tired, exhausted, so sick, you've done 16 million laps, and the team send you out again on the 17,000th different engine with a different track set, with a complete, and you've got to be switched on, and because you've got to take all this information in. So every single lap, you've got to be taking in information. Keep that information, store it, that when you get back to the pits, you've got to now translate it into something the team can work with. There's not many people in the world that can do that. I can promise you right now. Sheridan Moraes, to me, was one of those riders that could. I would come in and just say, well, the bike's doing this, and I wouldn't really have a firm solution or a firm understanding of what it was actually doing. Sheridan could tell you, right, it does this. I need this amount of clicks. I need this. Go. So is Augusto that rider? Is Carl that rider? I think Dovi's maybe got a little bit of that feel. Pedrosa has that feel, and he's contributed to the KTM package. Whether that's now hit a brick wall, I don't know. So yeah, let's see what happens with Yamaha. But it's a worrying situation. James, then sing to me, baby. James, I sang to you in confidence in that car on the way to Silverstone. Those videos will never see the light of day. Merskeichten, does Paul do his test riding at Austria? I was really expecting more from him at Austria. Was it maybe because they were testing in a race scenario? So Merska, yeah, they do a lot of testing at RedBull Ring. That's why Paul Espargaro in the first session was right up there in the top 3, I think it was. But it was always going to be a Ducati track. It always has been a Ducati track. So this fact that we're all surprised that the race was boring surprises me, because it was always going to be a Pecco or a Martin domination, even though it's a KTM track. I think, and this is again where the word balance comes in. The RedBull Ring always suited the KTM because it was a start-stop track. Ducati have managed to get corner speed, edge grip on the side of the tire, acceleration, and you really listen to Pecco and Martin, and you look through that tight last sector at RedBull Ring and how their bike moves and how they accelerate compared to the KTM, and you really analyze it whenever they show it as much as you can, and you might see what I'm talking. There's a clear difference. There's a clear difference in balance of those motorcycles. That Pecco can put that bike where he wants it, get on the throttle, and that bike almost takes Pecco where he wants to go. Brad is taking this KTM, putting it on his shoulder and saying, let's go. That's the difference. So for me, it's clear as daylight to see. Will be interesting to see Bastianini on the KTM next year and see where he measures up against Brad. Okay, so I'm going to catch up with some comments here. Have you heard Track Days closed its doors? Sad day in SA bike world. No, Sean O'Neill, don't tell that. Don't say that to me. Surely Arno and Dave, Track Days, please don't tell that to me. I've had a couple of phone calls from mates in South Africa, in the bike industry in South Africa this week, and it's the same with here in the UK. To be honest, it doesn't make for good reading. The world, cost of living, it's a tough place to be in at the moment, but motorcycles are impacted the most. So that's horrible news if it is true. I really hope it's not the case, but let's see. Wayne Taylor would still be Pecco, Martin, Marquez, and Brad. I agree with you. I think that is the top four in terms of MotoGP on Ducatis. I think Quartararo could throw his name in the hat. But yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head with those four riders, Wayne. No chance of same machinery. Tanya, yeah, absolutely. There'll be no chance of same machinery. It'll never happen. I know that. This is just where your mind as a fan takes you. Saw an article that Dorna Sports said that BMW can't enter MotoGP as a solely factory team, but enter with a current team. Will it make it difficult for BMW and prevent more riders getting to MotoGP? So Rian van Rensburg, so you're absolutely right, and it's such a weird situation that how Dorna just seemed to be blocking BMW from just taking the two spots that were left by Suzuki, and just there you go, BMW, off you go. Why they want to block that, I don't know. Why they are saying no, BMW have got to basically buy a current team, so either buy a Gresini or buy a VR46, which could be an option with the Valentino Rossi BMW car racing kind of thing. Although Ducati will beg to differ because they're going to try and get him in an Audi, and Audi owns Ducati, and so there's a lot of things to take into consideration there. But it's stupid. We know that there's the report that BMW have bought all Suzuki's MotoGP data and stuff. I would love to see it. I think I've said it before and I'll say it again. Where Toprak is right now is at the height of his powers. Get that man in MotoGP. Whether I want to see him go into MotoGP, trying to develop a BMW, man, it was years ago. Shaky Byrne. I've always loved Shaky Byrne, and him and Haga and Colin Edwards went into MotoGP on Aprilias, and they were trying to develop and make a better bike, or make the bike better, and couldn't really showcase their talents properly enough. I would like to see Toprak on a Ducati. Forget Aldeguer. Take Toprak. There we go. That's my 2 cents. John Watkins, Rins. John Rins. I said it last week. Rins is damaged goods to me. I mean, he was riding around at the back at RedBull Ring. I know he's still recovering from injury, and Silverstone he missed out, but I hope he can sort himself out, because I'm sure he can be an asset to Yamaha. But at this point in time, yeah, he's just damaged goods, and I don't know what kind of asset he really is, because he seems to, crash, he gets injured, he doesn't, his confidence being drained out of him. He's, when you go to sleep at night and you're on 5 million painkillers a day and you can't move properly, you're not going to climb on a MotoGP bike and ride it to its fullest capability. It's not there. So Rins, nah. Stephen Berry, my top 5 riders: Pecco, Brad, Mark, Fabio, and Martin. In no particular order. Good there. Believe that Ane Bastianini made a hasty decision, and Maverick Vignolo is not going to last on the way he's working. Will be good for KTM. On pure talent, I think Marquez, Bagnaia, Acosta, Martin, and Quartararo are probably the best 5 on the grid. Oli Moto. Acosta, I forgot about Acosta. You're right. But Oli Moto. How dare you not mention Brad Binder on a South African show? How dare you? Oli Moto. you are going to have brown plastic bags put outside your front door if you're not careful. Yeah, Olimoto, good shot there. I do think Brad is missing from that list, but I do like the Acosta. I didn't even think of Acosta. I didn't even think of Acosta, and that's where I'm going to go next. Robert Mackey, KTM maybe still a bit behind, but both Crafar and Hodgson were left nearly speechless on their 2 laps that KTM gifted to them. I think Hodgson's leg may still be shaking too. Yeah, Rob, I think you climb on any MotoGP bike and it'll be fantastic. The problem is at the level these guys are riding, that 0.2 or 0.3 that Brad and KTM are searching for, it just seems a mile away. And it's, I mean, me as a racer, I've been there. I need to find 0.2 to be on the front row, or I'll go find it. You go out and you just cannot find that 0.2. If anything, you go backwards trying to search for that 0.2. And that's why I said it's a very frustrating situation at the moment for KTM and Brad, because they're just seeing those bikes do this, and it's like I'm riding as fast and as hard as I possibly can, and I'm not making any impact on these guys. So yeah, let's see. Any news on Moto3 for Richer, Daryl Holmes? No, nothing yet. I'm hoping Richer, I think he'll be legible to race in Moto3 next year with this 18-year-old rule. I must actually double check, but I certainly think he's earned his right to be on the grid. So hopefully he can. I do worry because he is quite a tall lad. I don't know what Arushan and them are feeding him, or if it's something in the PE water, but he is a tall, slender kid, and Moto3. But there's, you look at Ivan Ortola, who's doing well in Moto3. There's some tall riders in Moto3, Colin Vaya, that are doing well. So yeah, let's hope. He firmly deserves to be there. I think Richer's got the pace to be there. He's proving it in the Spanish champion, or in the European Moto3 Championship as well. So let's see. Pedro, who little big media co. Let's quickly talk about Pedro then before I get on to Maverick. Pedro, again, it was a reality check for Pedro Acosta this weekend. You can't deny it. He made mistakes. He crashed, and yeah, MotoGP reality has kicked in with Pedro Acosta. KTM reality has kicked in with Pedro Acosta. He got away with it for a while, as did Jack Miller last year. I've said it before. All these things that Brad points out, that you can't do this on a KTM, you can't do this. The guys kind of ride past and get good results and beat Brad. And so, well, yeah, you can. I did it. And then it just slowly comes back and bites them in the arse. And I think Pedro's problem now is this. This has changed with Pedro. Not so much anything else, but this. When you have that crash, that big crash that he did at Jerez, I don't think that would impact him that much. But now it's starting to barrel roll down the hill. And you could see this weekend after those crashes. I mean, that one coming over the hill, that fast one, that was the weirdest crash ever. Cold tire or whatever. That was just crazy. That was madness. So that just starts playing on your mind, and you're thinking, I've scribbled 3 bikes already. I've got to just back off here. And he was nowhere this weekend. He was absolutely nowhere this weekend. So yeah, reality catches up. MotoGP reality catches up with anyone. It caught up with Marc Marquez. It catches up with everyone. So that's what Pedro is going through in my mind. Still a fantastic rider. I think still one for the future. I think still brilliant that KTM have got him. How long they'll have him for, because I don't think he's going to be as loyal and as suits and ties as Brad has been. I think for now it's cool. I'm in MotoGP and I'm the rookie. Fine. Couple more years of the same KTM story. Are we going to have the same Pedro? We'll have to wait and see. Nicole Brad, Uncle Rob, it's my birthday on Friday, and as Brad Binder and Darren Binder's biggest number 1 fans, Motor Rider Wolves' biggest number 1 fan and supporter, Nicole Brett, we're going to have to sing you a beautiful tune or something. And I'll definitely try and remember and send you a video from myself on Friday. I can't guarantee from Brad and Darren. That's out of my hands completely. But certainly, happy birthday, Nicole. You support not only us, you support all the bike races in South Africa. You're just, like Stephen and Wayne and all these guys, you're just one of these firm supporters of motorcycle racing in South Africa. So yeah, a big happy birthday to you. Okay, birthday. You're popular, Nicole. Jeez, Vinales, I just want to just catch up with comments and see before I go on to Vinales. Rins beat Fabio in sprint, I think. Didn't check on the main race. Yeah, Stephen, I understand that. I just, Fabio switched off to me. So Rins is beating you know, he's not beating the best Fabio. Yeah, we've spoken about the Yamaha thing. It's not a good exercise. Richer is 18 in December, and he will be old enough for Moto3 next season. He is 15th in the junior GP currently, Olimoto. Thank you for that information. Pedro is actually a really cool guy. I'm a bigger fan now than in the past. He'll get to the top. Only downside is MotoGP commentary. Stephen Berry, I agree with you. Silverstone, as I said, he's media debriefs. He's very honest. He's very open. He's very real. There's nothing, he doesn't hide anything. So I'm a fan of the shock. Will Nakagami stay, or will Somkat Chandra get the seat? Jakudas. At this point in time, it seems like Somkat Chandra is going to get the ride. I think it's a good, just as I was saying earlier, Nakagami. How useful is Nakagami's information now? Riding towards the back. I think he's demotivated. I think it's just regurgitating the same thing. I think they need fresh blood. And Somkat Chandra, is he the best option? Yeah. Thai passport coming into, is it Thai? I think it's Thai passport coming into MotoGP. Looks like a rider that's willing to just hang it out there and take risks and stuff. And he's shown some good pace on a Moto2 bike. So, I would go for it. Certainly. How's Agura snubbing a Honda? Snubbing HRC. HRC have never been snubbed in their life until now, the last couple of years, by Mark and now our Ayagura. It just shows you where the Honda project is. For Ayagura to say, I mean, he's in Moto2 now, and you see the HRC badge on his leathers. He's still a paid factory Honda rider. And he said to them, no, I'm going with a satellite Aprilia team in Trackhouse Racing. And then on the other side of the fence is Trackhouse Racing, an American-owned and run team, snub an American Moto2 rider to go for a Japanese rider. I like the owner saying it's a worldwide sport. It's an international sport, but that couldn't have gone down well with Joe Roberts. Mariska Hutchison, sing, Rob, sing. I will not sing. I save that for good moments when I'm driving in a car for over an hour with my mate to Silverstone and need a little bit of entertainment. Why is Brad still there? John Watkins. Brad is still there because he's very loyal and he's determined to make it work at KTM. That is why. If Brad was out of contract, which team would want him? Has Brad's ship sailed? Gavin Caldenas, it's a very good question because we've spoken about it, myself, Paul, and everyone here. I've spoken about it a couple of times. Is Brad's stock as high as it was 2 years ago? Olimoto and a couple of people have mentioned, as much as we love Brad, a rider is judged by the stats on a piece of paper, and the fact is Brad hasn't won a race in a very long time. Not finishing on the podium week in, week out. Yeah, it's a tough question. It's a tough question. I do think he's kind of dropped down at that list. I do still think he's highly, highly, highly rated in the MotoGP paddock. Every rider kind of speaks very highly of him, and teams speak highly of him. As I said, whether that being the loyal rider that he has that knocked his career, certainly in many ways. Has it impacted him as a choice for other teams? Sure. But let's not forget, he's in a full factory team with big financial support. They just need to find that something. It's got to come. It's got to come. I'm hoping 2027 and that kind of clean slate, although it's not really, is going to level the playing field. I still believe Ducati are going to be the bike to beat, but I don't know. I can see, I looked at Silverstone again, and Brad's in a team where they all speak English. It's such a close knit. They're a family, that team of Brads, and they work for each other, and they are such a close unit. Would a Brad fit in a more corporate Ducati environment where they don't speak English that well? The communication I don't think's as good. I don't think it's as bonded like this. Certainly Brad, as a South African, you know, the Italians get along with Italians, and they have that. But would Brad fitting in as well? I think that's a factor I've never really taken into consideration until I was at Silverstone now, and I went, "Geez, could I see Brad, talking to Italians and joking the way he does in the hospitality, with Italians, and talking to Italians the way he talks to his team?" And I don't know. I don't know if it would be a good fit. Why is Stefan Bradl still there? John Watkins, very good question. Very good question. It's the same problem Yamaha have. Um, Paul, my co-host, who's sadly not with us now, he's actually brought it up, and he said it perfectly. Is that Yamaha, and a lot of people have actually said it. Yamaha and Honda have failed with off-track signings. Having the likes of Bradl as your test rider. No disrespect to him, but the guy went to World Superbikes and couldn't do anything, and he's a decent rider, but is he going to take a project forward? Carl Crutchlow, yeah, he was brilliant, and we all know how fast he is, but you're plagued by injury, and is he the right guy for the job? So they've got to look off track now and make those better decisions. Mark Neiman, as you said, we've spoken about now. Dovi's going to be a test rider for Yamaha now at Misano. I think that's a step in the right direction. But Dovi hasn't been on a MotoGP bike in a year. Has it moved on to a point where it's even beyond Dovi? But I was saying about those riders that just have a feel. Don't even necessarily have to worry about outright pace. Just have that feel and that mentality to be able to store information and translate it. That's what Honda and Yamaha need. Because at the moment, I think Bradl, just like Nakagami, is regurgitating the same information. I think he's got to be exhausted. Nakagami's got to be mentally and physically exhausted of riding around at the back on a Honda. Bradl's got to be mentally and exhausted testing the same Honda with no results, not going forward. It's got to impact you. You need fresh. They need fresh. They all need fresh. In football, rugby, when things are going down, right, manager's gone, we need a fresh set of eyes, a fresh thought pattern. I think Yamaha and Honda need that now. Yamaha are getting it with Lynn Jarvis going, but I think there's still more to come. Oh, Ole Moto, he's mentioning Brad. I don't know if I want to read it. Of course we will read it. Brad is 30 next year. Yamaha and Honda would both jump at having him on their factory bikes. I don't think Ducati or Aprilia would, though. Trackhouse probably, as another comment comes in here, would, but VR46 would not. Cressini, question mark. Olimoto, I agree with you. Yamaha and Honda would probably jump at him. I think definitely Ducati and Aprilia do kind of look more at European riders now, in terms of Spanish and Italians, and they've got a lot of options because I think it's just a generally a better fit. So yeah, I agree with you. A Cressini, yeah, again, I think there might be that language barrier. It's definitely a lot, a bigger barrier than what Brad's got at KTM now. As I said, Brad, it's just such a well-oiled machine. I know the results on there. I know the performance is not there, but that whole everything from the hospitality, that team, they just won. They just work so well, and I cannot fault KTM for the dedication. That those guys are the first in the morning and the last out working on that bike. They will sell their souls to get results for Brad, and Brad will do the same for them. And oh man, it's just so frustrating that it's not working, but it's got to come. KTM are just too big. It's KTM. KTM are doing so many things right in motocross, enduro. They've dominated in so many avenues. It's got to come in MotoGP. It was coming, and then something changed. I mentioned earlier, the Michelin tires or something. Something changed, but I think as frustrating as it is, we can't be as critical as we are of KTM. Of course, we can be critical, but I don't think it needs to get to the point where some people take it overboard and stuff. They're trying. Their project's trying, and patience is not a word that I like. I can promise you that, and patience is not a word South Africans like. But it's unfortunately that's where we are. Stephen Berry, Dovi is a step backwards. He was rubbish as Darren's teammate, and the bike has much more aero, etc. Now I'd rather have Remy testing someone with recent experience. Stephen, you've kind of brought out my concern about Dovi there. Yeah, it's a tricky one. I understand what you're saying. I do think it's moved on. You can't take away the fact that it's Dovizioso and everything he's done in MotoGP, but this new MotoGP animal is just it's a whole new animal. It really is. Remy, like I said, it wasn't a fair shot for Remy, and I don't like how people judge Remy or World Superbikes by Remy's wildcard performances, because I saw it at Silverstone. Remy was put out on, yeah, try this, try all this nonsense. After 3 laps, Remy had no grip and was riding around useless. I don't know what information they were getting out of a Remy Gardner spinning out of every corner, a gear shorter than everyone else. So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, that I would prefer someone. Is that why Augusto's on the cards? Yeah, it's a tricky one. I don't know the answer. That's why they've got to pay someone the big money to make the right answers, because Lynn Jarvis is not at the moment, and Alberto Puig are not. That's, I think, need to should. Gareth Davidson, speaking about KTM and people doing great things, South African doing great things. Gareth Davidson is part of the marketing team at KTM headquarters and doing a fantastic job. Gareth, before I even read your comment, hats off to you, Rian, and your whole team. You're really are doing a fantastic job with the marketing at KTM. I'm very jealous. Not sure how much weight this comment would carry, but the KTM team are working so hard behind the scenes to try bring the best bike for the riders. But nowadays, it's not easy to make a standout winner. Ducati did not make a dominating machine in 7 years. Everything is being thrown plus the kitchen sink, and kind of reminisces what I've just said. Gareth, I do at Silverstone. When I talk to Tex and the rest of Brad team, there's this passion there. There's not this, oh well, it's not going well, but we're getting our salary and we're traveling the world, so it's not. They are determined to make it work. So yeah, Gareth, that's brilliant inside information. And like you said, as I said with Ducati, people are talking about the Ducati Cup, and that Ducati went through years of struggle. Valentino Rossi climbed on a Ducati and couldn't make it work. They did everything, and it's clicked now. As Gareth says, it's taken time, but it's clicked. So there, Gareth, Stephen Berry, tell Pitt to hire Gigi. Do it. See, I don't think, again, there's so much more than just, we've seen it with a couple of the Ducati Italians that have gone to KTM now and now are kind of leaving, because it's not just as simple as you hire Gigi and he's going to go to the races. The guy's got to go live in Austria, be at the factory. It's a completely different lifestyle. Italians don't immigrate. They don't. They love their country. There's no need to leave their country. That's their way of life. So it's very hard. It's very hard. I understand money talks, but I think Gigi's on. Why would Gigi want to leave? I know we're just putting it out there. I know it's not like, but yeah, there's so much more to take in. I'm also that kind of guy. Why don't you just get him? It's really not that easy. There's uplifting families, and as I said, I've seen with the immigration to the UK, and Gareth will know from his immigration to Austria. I massively underestimated immigrating. I really did. I thought, it's a country with a bit colder weather. I mean, a country's a country, people are people. So many things are different. So yeah, there's a lot of factors that play into it. Honest question, Shane Sparg. Honest question: do you think Honda and Yamaha will let this imbalance go for long? They must be working furiously to get back. Shane, again, they are. They are working hard. They are doing. They're pouring resources into it. They're throwing money in it. My concern with Yamaha, as I've just said now, and Honda, is the decisions that are being made. I don't think the right management decisions are being made in terms of test riders, test plans, riders coming in, and those kind of things. That's why I think there needs to be change in management in terms of Lynn Jarvis, which there is at Yamaha, and Alberto Puig. I think fresh ideas need to come in there. I think they're trying to do this copy and paste mentality where, okay, well, just copy the Ducati wings and paste them and just try and make them work on our bike. And I don't think they're trying to go there or find their way. They're trying to find quick solutions, which I understand why, because they need results. They're spending a lot of money at sponsors, and Honda have lost so much. They've lost Mark. They're losing Repsol. They lost Red Bull. Yeah, it's been a big kick in the teeth for Honda, but credit to them, they're still there. They're still going. Same with Yamaha. I just don't think they're making the right decisions in many departments. So those decision makers have to be changed. What those decisions are, what's right and what's wrong, I couldn't tell you. I would start with my test my test team and the way you go about that. But it does seem like they're just doing this copy and paste. If I stand and I look at a Honda, it just looks wrong. The Ducati, everything looks like it makes sense. The KTM looks like it makes sense, and the Honda just looks off balance. The Yamaha, as I said, it's like a copy and paste between an Aprilia and a Ducati. They haven't really found their own formulas, and I think they're going to have to do that, and that comes with time, patience, and a lot of money, which the world, never mind motorcycle racing, the world just doesn't have at the moment. So yeah, it's a tough one to answer, but I think management and decisions need to be really looked at there. Tyson Crone. Frankie thinks there's a chance he gets a GP25, something he believes is a possibility. Your thoughts? My thoughts are move on, bring up Moto2 rider Roberts. Tyson, yeah, Frankie is a big talking point with me. I've spoken about it for the last couple of years, actually. Now, Frankie doesn't seem like a rider. He's a talented rider, don't get me wrong. We know the talent that's there. Doesn't seem a rider that's as hungry as some others to be there. Doesn't seem like he has that fire burning in him. He seems to be, well, I'm fast on a motorbike, so I'll do it. He doesn't seem to have that burning passion. Like when Brad and Acosta and these kind of guys and Pecco and Martin talk about their races, there's this passion behind it. And Frankie's missing something. And certainly he's had 3 years of misery. There's been glimpses the last couple now on the Ducati. I think he was very lucky to find himself on the ride that he is on this year on a factory Ducati. Does he earn that right next year? For me, no. For me, not at all. I would take Digi over Frankie in terms of factory bike. We know Frankie has now officially signed for VR46, which we knew what was going to happen alongside Digi for next year. But yeah, I think Frankie's, I don't want to say his days are numbered, but he's certainly one that's on the chopping block. Because as you said, Roberts and Dixon, and it's going to hurt saying this. Dixon is that's probably one rider that I'm not a fan of. But the guy can ride a motorcycle when he's on it. Silverstone was a clear indication of if a Dixon just shut his mouth and let his riding do the talking, I would be a fan because the guy can ride a motorcycle. He did it again now on the weekend. The guy's got talent. And because of his stature and that, I think he would go quite well on a MotoGP bike. When he did that wildcard ride a couple of years ago on the Petronas Yamaha, I think he did okay. I think it was Assen. I saw glimpses of what could be a decent MotoGP rider there. Joe Roberts, I also see glimpses of what could be a decent MotoGP rider. Ahead of Frankie, no. I would take Frankie over them. But I do like the idea of, and entertaining the idea of just, right, you guys have had your chance now, move along, fresh talent. I do like the idea of that, particularly with the rules going the way they are in 2027. I think giving those kind of riders at least a year on the current MotoGP bikes to set themselves up for 27, to have a bit of familiarity with Michelin tires and a bit of aero and stuff, rather than just throwing a guy on in 2027. I don't know. I think that thought pattern's a bit better, but yeah, Tyson, it's definitely the Frankie is still a big, up in the air conversation for me. I don't think he's done enough, certainly to warrant a GP25 machine, but I think he's can count himself very lucky he's a VR46 Academy rider, because I don't know if he would be there if he wasn't. The same with Alex Marquez. If his surname wasn't Marquez, don't think he would be there. Rian van Rensburg, what could make Honda Yamaha better? Because that aero from Yamaha and Honda looks like copy and paste from the European teams, but no results there. Rian, I don't know. In the motorcycle industry, especially as a journalist and a racer, you talk about it's in the DNA. And it's as simple as that. It's not in Yamaha's DNA to maybe go with that aero. These are all blocks and puzzles, pieces of the puzzle that got to fit in to make the picture. And if the puzzle fits, but it's not the same picture, it's not going to work. So I don't know what the answer is. I honestly don't know what the answer is, but I do think they need to maybe reset, forget about what Ducati, and forget about trying to make your bike. And this is what I liked about Marini's comments in Silverstone, and I mentioned it on the last show. I like that Marini went, right, forget everything about Ducati. He's throwing everything about Ducati out of his mind. He's got to build the Honda for what the Honda can be. Not try and make the Honda a Ducati, not try and make the Honda an Aprilia. Got to try and make the Honda the best Honda it can be. And Honda have got the DNA. Yamaha have got the DNA and the experience and the resources to make it happen. I just think their judgment has been clouded by this this attitude of having to find results now. Panic mode. Panic thought process and panic just don't go together. They need patience, and unfortunately, as I just said, there's no patience in the world at the moment. So, I do think they should, if they're not already, seriously be in the background developing a bike for 2027 to start 2027 and the new rules on a strong foot. Forget about development, and then I still agree with the rules now to freeze all development in current MotoGP, right? The bikes have to stay the same. The 2025 spec bikes have to stay the same. Boom, bang. You cannot change anything because teams are throwing money, a lot of money, and that at something that's going to be flipped on its head in 27. So, that might bring the field a bit closer in terms of, right, Ducati, you can't do any more. Maybe, Honda and them can still have some concessions. But I don't know. To be honest, if I had the answers, I'd be in the paddock and I'd be paid the big money. But I don't. I'm sitting here as a fan talking to you guys. So let's see what the answers are. Uncle Rob, do you think the Gresini Ducati will suit Jack Miller, or do you think he will be more competitive on that beautiful bike? I feel that this team will be a good suit for him. I think Jack would fit perfectly in Gresini. It's not going to happen. Ducati have to sort Firmin Aldeguer out, and that's where he's going. I think Jack, the Pramac deal fits perfectly with Jack. He's worked with the team before. He knows them. He loves them. They love him. It's just a case of, right, Jack, we're signing you not to win races, not to finish the podium. We are signing you to develop our bike. We're signing you as a workhorse, and it's whether Jack is prepared to do that or wants to do that. Jack, again, hasn't got any real, here's my results. I want more money, or I want this money. Jack's got to kind of, in many ways, take what he's given. I like the comment of he doesn't want to stay in MotoGP because of his passport. He wants it because of his results. But the reality is, Dorna and MotoGP need an Australian, and he's the fastest one at the moment. So kind of guarantees him a ride. So let's see. It's because KTM are still only ready to race. They need to be ready to win now. A little big media co. I like that. Let's change that to ready to win. I like that. Ollie Motos answered the question there as well for Tyson. Vimpy van der Berg. It shows anybody can be great on a factory Ducati like Dovi. After that, he was nowhere. I said the same thing with Marini. Marini was on a Ducati, and it kind of maybe highlighted or boosted his talent a little bit more than he actually is. There's no doubt it does. It does give you a little bit more of an edge. I don't agree with the Dovi. I think Dovi was seriously good, and I think Dovi, put a lot into that Ducati project. If you just watch those Dovi documentaries, and I wish MotoGP would bring out more of those behind the scene documentaries. I loved it. Those last couple of years with Dovi, that last year in particular of Dovi and Ducati, that relationship just ended, and that just shut Dovi off, and Dovi as a MotoGP rider switched off. I think the Dovi on the Yamaha exercise was just a wrong fit. Dovi had switched off. The Yamaha was switching off. It was just a bad time. Dovi tested the Aprilia MotoGP bike, and I think he should have made that call before Vinales went on there. So I think he missed a trick, and ultimately that was the demise of his MotoGP career. But I think Ducati was a huge asset to Dovi, and Dovi was a huge asset to Ducati. Sorry, Rob, KTM is trying, but it's ruined BB's chance of becoming MotoGP champ. Sorry, Rob, for this comment. It's 5 years now. Chris, don't be sorry. I can't argue with that. We can't argue with that. KTM can't argue with that. No one can argue with that. It's a good, honest statement. And us as fans, as KTM, as everyone, we feel that, and we're all frustrated by it. But it's the reality. It is the reality. We can, if, what, and when, and that all means nothing. The situation is Brad's on the KTM. The KTM is not performing. Brad's not able to show his true potential. And that's where it is. It's very frustrating. It has certainly dented his chances of becoming a MotoGP world champion. This year was supposed to be that year. Last year was supposed to be that year. Next year, God, you like to believe in underdogs and miracles, but I say it's a big gap. It's not a big gap, but it does seem like a big gap that they've got to close. So it is, Chris, and don't be sorry for that kind of comment. It's a reality. It's a hard comment to make as a fan, and it's a hard thing to talk about. But all we can hold on to, all what I hold on to now more so than ever after Silverstone, is that God, that team's trying. God, Brad's trying. Let's just hope it just goes, yup, and something happens. Rossi couldn't fix Ducati, but Gigi could. Stephen Berry, I love it. I agree. Other one off guys might not make a difference, but Gigi is like the Adrian Newey in Formula One. Can't argue with that, Stephen. Cannot argue with the facts, and that is fact. I've never even thought about that. Rossi couldn't, but Gigi could. But listen, Gigi didn't do it overnight. Hey, it took a couple of years period, and it's got right. But yeah, very, very good comment, Stephen. Very good comment. Stephen Colvasi, Yamaha and Honda holding on till 2027. Kevin Schwantz was a top guy for years. Finally got a title when the stars lined up. Brad is one of the best, but motorsport has always been a combo of bike, rider, and luck. Nicky Hayden was good, but this title was lucky. Mir is a champ, always about timing. Yeah, Stephen, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And then another great comment there. Apart from a weather-affected race, I don't see a Japanese bike winning a race until at least 2026. Jeez, Wayne. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's even being a little ambitious, to be honest. But yeah, I totally agree on Jake Dixon, Rob. He's from just down the road from me, and I've watched him since BSB days. But he says silly things and lets himself down. Can't see him getting to MotoGP. Olimoto, yeah, I've also followed Jake Dixon from his BSB days, when Shaky Byrne was his manager and he was the next top British talent. He was on that, I think it was a Suzuki or something in BSB, and he was brilliant. And I was like, God, this guy is good. And I was a huge fan really until the Darren incident last year at Silverstone. And then he just says silly things at times, and it makes it hard to be a fan. But, I know we all kind of jump and rave when the guy doesn't do well, but there's a serious talent there. Again, it boils down to management, rider management. It needs to be Robert Mackey, Dixon in MotoGP, wash your mouth out, Rob. And that's in a thick Scottish accent, I'm sure. So I'm sorry about that. But yeah, Jacko Das, you're right. Jake Dixon has signed with Alfmark VDS for 2025. That's the best move he could possibly hope for. So yeah, let's see how that goes. Riders, I would pick Frankie ahead of Raul, Alex, Mir, Marini, Vinales, Jack, and Tucker. Hate to say it, Miguel. Stephen, definitely ahead of Raul for sure. Ahead of Alex. He's probably ahead of Alex. Definitely ahead of Mir. Marini, before Silverstone, I would have said yes. Marini really impressed me at Silverstone. Not so much with on track, but certainly off track. The way he presented himself, the way he spoke about the project, the way he really impressed me. But I understand what you're saying. If push came to shove, I'd probably take Frankie. Vinales. God, yeah, I'll talk about Vinales now. Definitely Jack. Maybe I would question mark. Frankie. Tucker, definitely. Miguel, definitely. Rob, the Japanese ringy system where upper, middle, and lower management all have a say may be the reason for the slow decisions. In the past, it was okay, but with the new speed of aero changes, Honda and Yamaha have to change the way they work. Russell Bird, perfectly said. Perfect. Couldn't have said it any better. And I saw that firsthand when I was with Darren in his year in MotoGP. That Japanese mentality is a big factor at the moment, and that's why I still think Ducati are going to be ahead of the game in 2027 because I think they just make the decisions right. the Europeans are getting it right, because that meant that thought pattern, that mentality, that getting stuff done, as you said, not having to go through this system, this approval. The process is just a lot more tedious with the Japanese than it is with the Europeans. So, brilliant comment there, Russell. Love that. Will Dorna reduce the size of Moto2 in 2027 as well, Brian? I don't think so. That would be silly to, in my mind. I suppose if you want to bridge the gap because of that 18-year-old rule, maybe for Moto3, because I do think it's, I don't want to watch 18-year-olds on Moto3 bikes. I loved watching 16 and 17-year-olds on them, but yeah, let's see. Miller would be even luckier than Morbidelli has been if he ends up in the Cassini seat next year. I'm on the same page with Dixon for sure. I'm American though, so Roberts is my first choice, although they're both getting too close to 30 to consider the bump to MotoGP. Tyson, that's the other factor you've got to bring in is the age. You look at the youngsters coming from Moto3, Colin Vaya, that Alonso. Oh, that Alonso just excites me. He really does excite me. Pedro Acosta's 20 years old, so yeah, there's a lot of names that can be thrown in ahead of Dixon and Roberts. So yeah, I agree with you. It'll be interesting to see Anaya on the KTM. So that leads me into my. Let me just check my list here. Furman we've spoken about. Ducati Cup we've spoken about. Pecco and Martin Skill we've spoken about. Brad Binder fighting the best out of the KTM we've spoken about. Acosta reality check we've spoken about. Aprilia staff and Tardozzi we've spoken about. Vignales objective complete, all about himself is the note that I've got down here. And ahead of the weekend, the comment came out from Vignales, about his move to KTM, and he says, it's a big risk, but I back myself. I like that comment, first of all. And then the second one is, my objective at Aprilia is complete when I won at Austin. And I went, God, if I was KTM, I would have cancelled that contract there and then with a comment like that. My objective is complete because I want to race becoming the first rider or one of three riders or whatever that accolade that he got was, of winning on a Yamaha, an Aprilia, and a Suzuki. One of a handful of riders that's one of three different manufacturers. So my objective is complete at Aprilia. Jesus, Maverick. Sorry. Goodness, Maverick. That just sums up Maverick Viñales perfectly. It's about myself. It's about me, not about the team. Surely his objective should have been winning a world championship with Aprilia. Surely? No, my objective is done. I won a race. Oh, geez, if I was KTM, I would have just cancelled that contract there and then. Maverick. I said it at Silverstone where he just came in there saying, I'm the best accelerator in the team, and now my bike doesn't accelerate. You tell me what's wrong. The bike, the team, not us, not we're. With Brad, it's we, us. With Viñales, it's me and them. And God, I worry. I could be proven completely wrong, as is most of us. I have the same kind of mentality when it comes to Viñales being toxic for that team. But I can't see that being a good exercise. Bastianini, I can see fitting in. There's a couple of familiar faces within that team that he's gelled well with at Cressini, that he's won races with. So I think he's going to fit in well there. I think he is. Bastianini's just that lone wolf. He kind of just gets on with the job in the background. He doesn't want all the attention. He just wants to race his motorbike. Viñales wants the attention. And if it's not about him, then he's not happy. And this is what sets up for Viñales' weekend, is if he goes out on Friday and he feels good and he's fast, hey, I feel good, I'm fast, cool, this weekend's going to be about me. Great, then you can't actually stop Maverick. But if it starts off as, I'm not feeling that great, this weekend's not going to be about me, then Viñales just switches off and he's a grid filler. I was so disappointed with that comment from Viñales. I don't know what you guys think. I'll catch up with comments here, but man, I was angry. I was angry at that comment by Maverick. So let me just catch up with this. Down to business. Let's talk about Viñales. It's Robert Mackey. I've done it. Maverick will torpedo himself out of KTM in a couple of seasons. Wayne Taylor. Totally agree regards Vinales. Derek. Robert Mackey, rest in peace. Rip up that contract ASAP. Agreed. Ollie, KTM should have signed Toprak instead of Vinales. Ollie Motor. God, that's one of the best comments I've ever heard. The Red Bull sponsorships there, everything. Love that. So now his objective is clearly to win on 4 manufacturers. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So KTM have signed a rider that his thought pattern is to win a race, not a championship, not improve the package, not be a team player, none of those things. I want to win a race. That's my objective in life, is to win a race for myself. Oof. Maverick, please, please, please don't make me not be a fan. You know, I really enjoy watching Maverick ride a motorcycle when he's got that aggressive riding style and he brakes late and he digs that front end into the ground. And oh man, I've seen some beautiful stuff from Maverick. But let's not forget, this is a rider that never arrived back in Moto3. He just never arrived at a racetrack. He just didn't want to race. Had a fight with his team, so just didn't rock up. Goodbye. Tried to blow up Yamaha engines. Had a fallout with Yamaha. Now it's Aprilia's fault. That he's not competing, and we've gone backwards, and some silly comments. So yeah, the guy's just not. That family, the KTM is like this. It's like this, and Maverick is gonna battle. He's gonna battle, absolutely gonna battle. So let's see what happens. Maverick, the Spanish, Jake Dixon, always foot in mouth. Gary Kaiser, yeah, absolutely. He does. He just needs to let the results do the talking rather than his mouth, to be honest. And again, this goes to management. Dixon, Maverick, they just need better managers to pull them. Not even let comments like that get out there. It's a joke. Vinales just wanted to win on 3 bikes, but Halewood, Lawson, Mamola, and Caparossi already did that. Now he wants 4. Olimoto, yeah, absolutely. Maverick is like a wet dream. Once you open your eyes, it's just disappointing. It's frustrating with Maverick because there's a massive talent there, but it's just never going to come right. We spoke about it a couple of months ago now when he strung together a couple of really good races, won that Austin race, and he looked dominant, and you thought, right, has this Maverick turned a corner, and then it just plummets just as quick as it goes up. So yeah, I think we know exactly what Maverick is. We know exactly who Maverick is now, and it's not going to change. To be fair, winning on that KTM is a lofty goal these days. Little big media coverage, yeah. Yeah, that's true. That is true. You just go win on a KTM. That is a challenge in itself at the moment. But oh man, let's see what the rest of the season brings. At the moment, it's for me, it's a 2-horse race. Bastianini's clawing on. As I said, I think Bastianini is a kind of rider that you can see a 6th or a 7th place maybe, whereas with Martin or Pecco, it's like top 3 or crash. That just seems to be how they are. But yeah, I really appreciated the pace. I know it was boring in terms of racing, but God, they were so fast and they were so good. They put on a display on mentality, strong mentality, motorcycle skill, determination. It was just the perfect portrait of how to be a professional motorcycle racer. It was a beautiful thing to watch, those 2 guys riding at that pace at the RedBull Ring. So bring on the rest of the season. On Maverick, I didn't hear the interview, but we also need to take interviews in context of second language, and the news sites also love cropping interviews to cause drama. Stephen, no, I do understand that. If it was anyone else but Maverick, I would take it with a pinch of salt. But for that Silverstone, and I've seen it before, and I've kind of gone, okay, yeah, I understand frustration and whatever. The Maverick at Silverstone, the Friday, the Saturday, the Sunday was just, oh man, he was just so negative. He was just so negative, and I can, like you said, I can see that maybe the objective interview or the comment being manipulated or blown out of context, but I can visibly in my mind picture Vinales sitting there going, my objective was to win and I needed something new. You know what I mean? If it was anyone else, I would kind of take it with a pinch of salt, but yeah, Maverick just, yeah, oh, it's annoying. Fair point, Stephen, but it's Maverick. There we go. King Twani, I don't see Mark nor Vinales winning a race this year. Their riding style is chaka chaka. I don't see Mark nor Binder, because it says yeah, Binder, winning a race this year. Their riding styles is chaka chaka. No, I don't think it's their riding styles. I think the only reason why they wouldn't win the race this year is because Pecco and Martin and Bastianini, the Ducati is just so good. I was praying for rain at RedBull Ring when I saw those clouds coming over. I was like, rain. Brad will just win on slicks, you know. Yeah, MotoGP is just at another level. It's as simple as that. Do I think? Do I think? Mark? Here's the big question. Do I think? Does anyone think Mark will win a race on the Ducati this year? John Evans, the mightiest mechanic, the mightiest technician in the entire world. I think they should add Dale Robinson on a DSRX in the lineup. John, very good comment. So John is my my sidekick here in the UK, working for Zero Motorcycles. He's the technical man. This one of the smartest men I've ever met in my life in terms of technical. Yeah, John, I think Dale Robinson would thrive on that because Dale turns everything into a race, as you well know. Mav is still one of only 3 riders to make it straight to Q2 in every race so far in 24. He switches off on race day, though. Little Big Media Co. So do you think he's going to win a race this year? Little Big Media Co. That's the question. Completely agree regarding Vinales and how KTM must have felt when they heard that from him from him too. Great analysis. Love it. Sorry, my eyes. I'm going like all blurry because I'm tired. Low of averages. I'd say yes, especially if there is a flag to flag. That's Stephen Berry. Not unless Pecco and Martin have a coming together, gifting him a win. Robert Mackey. Daryl Holmes. Mark will win. That's the race. Pecco and Jorge Martin take each other out. Ollie Motor, they don't give out trophies for getting into Q2 every time. See, Ollie Moto just goes by the facts, and he's absolutely right. What are the races left on the calendar? Let's have a look here. Let's have a look. How's the news about Thailand being the first race for the next couple of years? Strange, isn't it? Calendar. Aragon. I think Wayne Taylor or someone mentioned earlier about Aragon being a potential track for Mark. I think it's a Pecco track all day long and a Marti track all day long. Misano, Pecco, Martin. Hey Rob, I missed last week's show, but just to emphasize how empty Silverstone felt, even just watching other races around the world on TV, they've missed a huge trick, but was great seeing you and Dent. Yeah, so Lee, we did speak about it last week, how pathetic. You know, you look at Austria this weekend, the one grandstand, full, brimmed, and they put all the pieces of paper there down for the crowd to make the Austrian flag. None of that at Silverstone. First of all, you didn't have the fans sitting on the grandstand to make a flag. It would have been half, not even a quarter Union Jack, and they probably wouldn't have got it right anyway. But yeah, we've spoken about that. It's Silverstone was very disappointing. But anyway, then we got Misano back to back with a test included as well. So it's literally Misano from the 6th of September all the way to the 22nd with a test thrown in the middle. So it's going to be interesting because it's kind of like those COVID days where do we think that'll bring the field closer together because it's a lot of track time for all the riders at the same track. There's no real advantage in terms of track time and data. It could be a benefit. Then we have Indonesia. I think Martin and Pecco all day. Japan, that could be one. That could be a mark. That could be a mark one, I think. That could be a Mark one or someone else one. I know Brad was really fast there last year, but things have changed a lot in a year. Australia, oh man, Phillip Island. I love Phillip Island, but Phillip Island was how good was Phillip Island last year? Brad, KTM good at Phillip Island. Let's hope for something there. Mark, Pecco, and Martin. You just say yes to every track. After Australia, it's Thailand. Ducati. Malaysia, Bastianini all day long. And then Valencia. Brad's gone well in the past, but again, a lot's happened in the year. Pecco's good at Valencia. Martin is phenomenal at Valencia. Mark, obviously, he's home race in many ways. So, yeah, it's a tough one. Let's see. Someone wants to change. It was disappointing how empty it was. Yeah. Gary Kaiser, Rob, change of subject. There is some kind of InterContinental Cup coming up in November. Do Africa SA have a team lined up? Bring Cam and Matthew over from the States. So, Gary, yes, there is an InterContinental Challenge happening at the end of the year. We posted it on the Motor Rider World page. I actually heard about it for the first time when I was at Donington World Superbikes. With Nicole and Damien Purificati, because Damien is the team manager for the team. He hasn't made the choice of the riders or anything. He's just the management in terms of setting up flights and. I'm just trying to see. I'll give you the exact names of the team. It's a strong team. It's a very strong team. As you said, I do think the likes of Cam, Shez, or Matthew would have been great in there. But I think it's also to give the riders outside the normal big hitters a bit of time in the spotlight, because if I look at some of the other teams as well, there's no massive established names in the other teams. If you look at South Africa, I actually commented on that the other day. We were spoiled for choice for that. You think that's definitely not included in it. And realistic ones, obviously Brad can't and wouldn't, because he's a KTM rider that's all in Yamahas and that. But there's Stephen Undal, Sheridan Moraes, Matthew Scholz, Cam Peterson, the likes of, I know he hasn't really been racing in that, but he's a top talent, Doran Loureiro, Kewan Snyman from Cape Town. I know he was one that commented and said he would have liked to have seen like a trials, a trial, kind of like a Red Bull rookies tryout to see, which in some ways I like that idea, to be honest. I don't want to open too much of a can of worms here and be too negative and stuff. I do think it's a very strong lineup, and I do think it'll be well represented. But as typical with South African sport, I think there's a bit of favoritism in some ways and a bit of politically correct, I want to say. Although as I said, I'm quite happy with the team. So we have Rushain Woodley, love it. Chris Wright, love it. Sensational, especially on those kind of bikes. Remember, they're racing Yamaha R3s and Yamaha R7s. So these youngsters have grown up on those kind of machines on short circuits. It's happening at Valencia, I think. Is it Valencia? No, Jerez. Sorry, Jerez, not Jerez. Jerez. Tay Janssen van Rensburg, good shot. He's also racing over in Italy on a Supersport 300, so he's kind of in that vibe at the moment. Abigail Basson, to be honest, the rider I don't know much about. I think she's from Cape Town. It's got to be a mix of ladies and men. I think you have to have 2 lady riders and the rest men. I'm not too sure the actual regulations. I haven't dived deeper into it. So Abigail, I'm not too sure about, to be honest. I'm sure she's fast, but Jessica Howden maybe could have fit in there. I don't know, but Abigail, Supersport 300 rider. Clint Seller, listen, Clint Seller's the captain, and would a Cam or a Matthew be a better pick? Maybe, but Clint, in my eyes, deserves it. He's been a Superbike SA Superbike champion for years. He's a massive talent. He's also got good management skills. He'll be a brilliant captain. He's a good motivator. He understands business and management and sponsors, and I think he'll just be a good kind of team leader for the whole team to be in there. And the guy's ridiculously fast. You can't take that away from him. Dino Iotso, I love. Leongu Karokwe, I never know how to say his name. I just call him Leongu. I think he's brilliant. I think he's really fast, and he's racing overseas on a Ducati Supersport bike in Italy at the moment. So I think he's a good choice. Nicole is now a question mark after a big crash. And Nicole, if you're watching this, hope you back in South Africa and recovering well after that crash. And then Damien Purificati is the team manager. So, but like I said, there's a lot of names we could have thrown in there, and who would have thought that? And it only really occurred to me when I went to that list, and I was like, geez, we are spoiled for choice. Abigail Basson races for my brother Trevor Westman Project 60 SA team here in Cape Town. So thanks for that, Nicole. Yeah, I've heard, I have seen glimpses of that. I haven't really paid much attention, to be honest. But that's why I was a little bit, maybe Jessica Howden, who's racing an R7 on the international stage, might be better. But Nicole was going to be the R7 rider, and I think Abigail was going to be the Super Sport 300 rider. So makes sense in that way. But Jessica also has good experience on a 300. Maybe Jessica's going to be, drawn in now that Nicole potentially might not make it, which is such a pity because Nicole does deserve it after her years and years of grinding it out. While we were chatting about Nicole, how is Nicole? Stephen, to be honest, I've only seen the updates that we've all seen on Facebook from Damien regarding her operation went well. I think she's back in South Africa now. I know Stephen Colgoxi sorted out a wheelchair and that for her. So Rob is a Gauteng snob. Doesn't know the riders down by the coast. Stephen, yeah, I know. There's a little. You're right in some way. I've always paid more attention to Gauteng riders because it's kind of where I'm from and stuff. But yeah, Kewan Snyman I would have liked. Kewan Snyman is probably one of the most underrated riders, in South Africa. Darren Lerero, we all know the talent that he is. That's what I'm saying. We're spoiled for choice. So I'm glad I didn't have to make that decision. That's what I'm saying. I think Shares would be a massive asset. Him on an R7, him on any motorcycle is a machine. But I understand, going with names and riders that haven't been given the opportunity, and this is their opportunity. So I think it's going to be brilliant. I think it's a brilliant idea. I think it's an absolutely brilliant idea to do that kind of thing. And let's hope it goes well, and let's hope that it becomes a great platform for talent to showcase themselves in the future. I'm hoping I can maybe make it down to Jerez for that race. I would love to be there to really document Team South Africa, or Team Africa as it's called. But Nicole flies back Friday. Paul Pacheco. So Paul Pacheco, who's in Portugal, has all the news. So she flies back Friday. So thanks for that, Paul. Uncle Rob, please do some work with the guys from 44 Teeth. You are both there in the UK. Do a MotoGP chat with them or something. Byron Yetling, they are really cool, and I'm trying to actually get some zeros to them to do some tests and that for us. But they're very traditional and they like to do things their way. But yeah, I love them, love their show, and I'd love to have a chat with them. It's actually a good idea about maybe just planting the seed and saying, hey, you know what, I've got this show. Do you want to come and talk crap about MotoGP for almost 2 hours with me and South African and worldwide fans? I think that'll be pretty cool. So let's see. Uncle Rob, when you come down to Cape Town, I will introduce you to our Project 60 SA team riders. Yeah, Nicole, I've seen Trevor Westmont and the brilliant job that he's doing with that whole setup. It does look amazing. I love the color schemes and all the things coming out of there. There's Slade Funny Cack, of course, in Cape Town as well, who's a massive talent, also a very underrated rider. Tristan Pino. Tristan Pino is also in Cape Town. He's a very good and fast rider. So we really are spoiled for choice. Sean Portman, let's talk Dazza. Sean, we've already spoken about Dazza. Where have you been? We spoke about Dazza early on. I even showed my shirt. See, catch your wake up now. But we've spoken about Dazza and the brilliant job that he did. Very proud of him. So let's hope that can continue. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sorry it was just me pretty much waffling on and no Paul. Really missed Paul this week. Hopefully he'll get well soon and he'll be ready to chat with us after the next race meeting. But I enjoyed this. Thanks everyone for kind of chipping in as my co-hosts and all the comments, and brilliant. Love it. There's so many good comments that make you think of things differently and see it from a different perspective. So I always end the show, go sit on the couch, try and relax and watch a movie, but my mind just goes like this because all these different scenarios and seeds have been planted in my head, and then I watch the next MotoGP race with a lot of that in my mind. So I love it. It's really brilliant getting all this kind of information and putting it into one. So big thank you to all of you for being patient even after cancelling last night and coming on tonight. Really appreciate it. Shout out to Glenn Irwin this weekend for Cadwell Park. Come on, Glenn, I agree with you. I really want to see Glenn Irwin win the BSB. How's that crash that he had at Thruxton the last round? Blah, blah. BSB, love it. Mark Lloyd, cheers, Rob. Great listen. Mark, keep up the good work. Mark is one of the men that pours his heart and soul into that KTM team of Brads. So Mark, big thank you to you, and all the boys there in the team for all the hard work that you do. And fingers crossed that that luck just comes and something comes, because you guys deserve it. George Haji Lililililililopia. Yes, I miss you guys. I do miss South Africa when I speak to you guys. I really do. But that's why I love the show as well. Keeps me connected to everyone. Sean and Ronnie, good. Thanks, Rob. Sean and Ronnie, haven't seen you in a while. Didn't see you at Silverstone, so hopefully get to see you sometime soon. But yeah, until the next show, everybody have a great week further. And yeah, can't wait to talk more MotoGP after the next race meeting. Keep well. Thank you once again, and goodbye.